Well, good day, everybody. How's everybody doing? Welcome to another edition of the Dukes Daily. I certainly hope that each and every one of you had yourselves a great Thanksgiving or Columbus Day, if this happens to be in the U.S. that you're seeing this. But it was Thanksgiving up here in Canada this past weekend, and Karen and I had a real good time. We were invited to 3 different places. Over to my daughter's on Saturday. Sunday, we were across the street to our neighbor's place, and yesterday out to some family members of Karen's out here in Spruce Grove. And so what a great time we had. Truly thankful. That's the great thing about Thanksgiving. We can put our political and our religious beliefs aside and all kind of unite on this common theme of being thankful and giving thanksgiving for the many good things that we all have in our lives. And we all have something that we can be extremely thankful for. So from us here at the Sunday Night Sports Guys and Dukes Daily, we certainly hope that you had yourselves a great holiday weekend and a lot of great memories were made as well. So it is Tuesday, and as is tradition now, we take Tuesdays and Thursdays for our top 10 days. And again, because we're still in October, as a theme of the start of the National Hockey League, we are doing top 10s with regards to hockey for this month. And so we've been doing a top 10 coaches, top 10 teams, top 10 defensemen, wingers. Today, we're going to go with the top 10 NHL centers. And again, to qualify this is more about what I've seen in my lifetime, okay? With defensemen, I left off Bobby Orr because I really didn't get to see Bobby Orr. Can we say that Bobby Orr is the greatest defenseman of all time? Yes, we can. Some people make the argument he was the greatest player of all time, which is fair as well. But I didn't really get to see Bobby, right? I didn't get to see Gordie Howe in his heyday. I didn't get to see Jacques Plante, some of these other great, Maurice Richard. And all these guys probably would rank up very high all time in some of these top 10 categories, right? But I'm going off of what I've seen in my 42 years of following NHL hockey, and try to make a list from that. Obviously, not everybody's going to agree with me. And if so, feel free to make a comment below into this video, and also hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet. We would love to have you on board because we love doing sports. We love the sports talk, the chatter, and stuff like that. But more importantly, we love when we have people that follow along and offer up their comments and opinions on sports as well. That's what makes it fun. So let's get right into the top 10 for centers of the NHL. And the first one I'm going to take is a little bit biased, I must admit, but I don't think it's an over bias. I think it's very justifiable to have this guy on my top 10, and his name is Patrice Bergeron. Now, I know once we get done, I have a few other names here that I will mention as honorable mentions that very much could take the place of Patrice Bergeron. The reason I've got Bergeron is just he's one of those guys. I mean, his accomplishments are not going to be as huge as some of these other guys on here. 1 Stanley Cup, 2 Olympic gold medals, 3 All-Star appearances, 818 points. I'm not sure where that ranks him all time, and 4 Selke trophies. But he's on a pace to potentially have 1,000 points for his career. And, it varies from hockey fan to hockey fan as to who's better in all this. And a lot plays into what they deem the greatest era of hockey. Many today who follow the game way more closely than I do seem to think this is the greatest era. Now, why they would select that, I don't know. Is it because athletes do look after themselves better than they ever had? We don't have too many Guy Lafleurs, who smoke a pack and a half of cigarettes a day and be out in the bar after the game having drinks and stuff, right? We just don't see that today. They are much more focused on being in tip-top shape. They're stronger, bigger, faster than they ever had. So I get that there is an argument to say that, but I think, again, it comes down to your personal preference. But for Patrice Bergeron, I think he's a guy that could have played in any era. If I'm starting a team from scratch, you know what? This is a guy I would strongly give consideration to. Plays both ends of the ice, very, very well. To me, he's like the modern day Bobby Orr in Boston from the fact of class, very classy player. Has lots of regard for his opponent, but also, comes with a bit of a mean streak into him, though a little bit subtle. Bergie has been recorded as playing through a lot of pain in playoffs with a lot of tough injuries. Stanley Cup final against Chicago. I forget what it was, but it was a fairly significant injury that he was playing through. And so, I mean, he does have the dog in him, right? Like I said, Stanley Cup. I think he is truly the heart and soul of the Boston Bruins. I know a lot can be said for Zdeno Chara, but I'll tell you what, Bergeron. I think he's going to be the guy that carries the seed next year. So to me, I felt Bergeron had a place in my top 10. The next one I was going to take, and some of these I know can be flip-flopped around, and whatever your criteria is for doing it, I'm not sure. But again, feel free to comment in the comments on what I put down for a top 10, and also put your own top 10. If you'd like to share that with me, I'd love to hear it. I'd love to read it and give my own comments on yours. But at number 9, I'm going to go with Joe Sakic. And Joe could probably be in the top 5. I fully understand that, right? What can we say about it? 9th all-time in points, 1,641 points, 2 Stanley Cups, Olympic gold medal in 2002, 12 All-Star appearances, 2 World Championships in 88 and 94. That's the World Championships. Once the NHL season is done, they put teams together from the various countries. And often Canada hadn't been very good at that. But in the last 20 years, we've really picked it up. And a lot has to do with guys like Joe Sakic, better quality players, taking up the invitation to go represent the country at that tournament. I mean, Joe Sakic, he's one of the best that I've ever watched from the center position. A true winner. I think the argument can be made to parallel him with Steve Yzerman, who were at about that same time. I think they also fell in the shadow of Mario Lemieux, kind of around then. It was a great era that time in the 90s and the 2000s for centermen. And I guess people can say that for any era, but that era truly, from Gretzky to Lemieux, and then you had Yzerman and Sakic in there, very strong, the centerman's position. And again, I'll tell you, the center spot was much like the right wingers and defensemen, a lot to choose from. And I realize these lists can be, they can be changed a lot from depending on who you are and what your, criteria and who you'd like to see on there. But that's a little bit for Joe Sakic, and that's why I had him here. At number 9, I had probably one of the quietest type players in the history of the NHL. Ron Francis, not as decorated as a lot of these other ones are. 2 Stanley Cups, though, Stanley Cup champion. That is the one thing. There's only one player on here who does not have a Stanley Cup, but he just could not be left off the list. Ron Francis, 2 Stanley Cups, 4 All-Stars, 5th all-time in scoring, 1,798 points. That is phenomenal production. Played with Hartford, Pittsburgh, and Carolina. Did poke a year in there with Toronto as well. But Ron Francis, just the model of consistency year after year after year. I mean, to be 5th all time as a NHL scoring, that's pretty hefty, right? That's pretty hefty. And until Lemieux and Gretzky came along, my goodness, he might have been right up there for the top 3. Top 2 even. I guess Yager might have been probably ahead of him. That would be just about it. Yeah, Messier, I suppose. But Ron Francis, very worthy of his spot on the top 10. At number 7 is a guy who was a little guy making it in the NHL before it became the big thing now because of all the rule changes. We know guys like Brad Marchand, had Theo Fleury. These guys have been able to flourish more and more. More smaller players are playing today because they've gotten away from the rough stuff in hockey, right? Fighting's pretty well obsolete. The rougher stuff is cutting down more and more and more. So it allows guys of not so much toughness able to play. Brian Trottier was one of those guys, but he could play. He just flat out could play. And 6 Stanley Cups, Hart Trophy, Conn Smythe, Canada Cup 81, 15-time All-Star, 5th all-time in scoring, 8 All-Stars, 1,425 points he had. Played for Canada Cup 81, in which they won. He also played for the USA in the 84 Stanley Cup. Just got to pause one quick second so I can grab my charger, because my battery is telling me I'm about ready to go dead. And I would not want to get partially through this and have this die on me and have to start all over. So there we go. Thank you about that. Thank you, and sorry. Yes, so 6 Stanley Cups. Hearts, Conn Smythe, man, I'm telling you, very decorated. Brian Trottier, 4 times, 4 in a row with the Stanley Cup champion New York Islanders. He centered the line with Mike Bossy and Clark Gillies, one of the big lines of that era. And Trottier, just a grind to the stone type player. I mean, who wouldn't want to have a Brian Trottier on their team? Wins 2 more Stanley Cups with Mario Lemieux in the Penguins to have 6 altogether. I'll tell you, there's not a lot. I should probably look that up sometime to find out how many players have won 5 Stanley Cups or more. Be interesting list to see. So Trottier gets here at number 6, and this guy could be top 5. Stevie Yzerman, a captain of the Detroit Red Wings, played his whole career in Detroit, just like Joe Sakic played his full career. Well, he was Quebec, and they got moved to Colorado, so he's with the same organization, right? Francis moved around a bit. Trottier moved around. Bergeron's still been a Bruin. I'd like to think he's going to remain a Bruin for full time. But Stevie Yzerman, listen to this account. 7th all-time in points, 1,755. 3 Stanley Cups, Olympic gold medalist in 2002, 9 All-Star appearances, has won a Conn Smythe, a Bill Masterson, a Selke, to speak to his defensive ability as well as scoring all of those points. And Stevie Y, and this was an interesting fact, he is one of only 5 people to get 150 plus points in a season. He had 155 in 88, 89. And what was the other ones? I'd have to look at. There was Gretzky, Lemieux, Yzerman, Messier. But here was the 5th one. That was a shocker. Bernie Nichols. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe Bernie Nichols in one of his years with the LA Kings when what's his name came along, Gretzky. What's his name? That's a good one. So 1 of 5, which is interesting that there has been no more than that to score over 150 points. So Yzerman takes up number 6. Number 5 is the only guy that has never won a Stanley Cup. Matter of fact, he never, ever played in a Stanley Cup final. That's slightly worse than Ted Williams, who did play in 1 World Series, hit under 100, just atrocious. But Marcel Dionne never, ever made it. Yet Marcel Dionne is 6th all-time, 1,771 points, played in 2 Canada Cup wins, as close to a Stanley as he could possibly get, 8 All-Stars, and was the center of the famous Triple Crown line, along with Dave Taylor. And who was the other guy? Man, my memory lately has just been awful. I go see a doctor about that thing. But Dave Taylor, Marcel Dionne, Charlie Simmer. There it is, the Triple Crown line. So Marcel Dionne, great, wonderful career. I was kind of seeing towards the tail end of his career that he played up into the 80s. Played a year with the Rangers, which didn't really work itself out. Seemed like a lot of players wanted to go to the Rangers prior to Messier doing what he did with them to try and win a cup and break that streak in New York. But it didn't happen with Marcel Dionne. But you know what? I think that's a guy that deserves to be on a top 10 list. Whether you think he deserves the 5th spot is arguable. I get that. At number 4, we're getting into the tough ones. Tough yes, tough no. Probably doesn't get tough after the next one. I went with Mark Messier. Mark Messier. What can we say about Mark Messier? 6 Stanley Cups, 2 Hart trophies, 15 All-Star appearances, 3 Canada Cups, 3rd all-time in scoring, 1,887 points, silver medal with Team Canada at the World Championships. one of the great all-time leaders in any sport. Don't care if it's football, baseball, basketball, scooter riding, maple tree climbing, I don't care what it is. Mark Messier, one of the legendary leaders of all time. And for him to be able, for a long time, he was under the shadow of Wayne Gretzky, and rightfully so. Wayne Gretzky was Wayne Gretzky. But it wasn't until Gretzky got moved on to LA that we discovered that, Mark Messier, he probably was just as vital to those 4 Stanley Cups as Gretzky was, because he goes on to win another cup in Edmonton, not just anywhere else. He still stays in Edmonton. They got a cup in Edmonton in the 90s, and then he moves on to New York to be part of breaking the curse, so to speak, for the New York Rangers. So I've got Mark Messier at number 4. Number 3 can be argued, and again, some of these can be interchangeable. I went with Sidney Crosby. I went with Crosby because I think there's some that would make the argument of him maybe being the greatest player of all time. I personally don't agree with that, but I've heard those rumblings. I've heard some, I've watched some videos where the case is made for Crosby. Again, it comes down to the era of hockey and what you feel was the best era. And a lot of people feel that since he came in, the game changed a lot. That's when it started getting bigger, faster, all this kind of thing, more skill in that. And he's been the king. He's been the king. He's still, I would say, maybe this year you could start relinquishing that title, best player in the world, to Connor McDavid. But, Sid's had a remarkable career, 3 Stanley Cups, 2 Conn Smythe, 2 Harts, 2 Art Ross, which is the scoring championship, 7 All-Star appearances, Olympic gold medal, winning goal back in Vancouver, 2014, I think it might have been. Yep. And currently has around 800. What's his point total? I didn't get his point total down. 7 All-Stars. My apologies for that. But I know he's up over 1,000 points. Crosby is. So for the fact that he could be in that discussion of overall best player of all time, how can he not be in a top 10 all-time center? So I got Crosby there. The next one is Lemieux. And obviously, number 1 is Wayne Gretzky. And, here's the funny thing about Lemieux. If he hadn't have gotten sick, it really makes you wonder with Hodgkin's disease and stuff. And I think he had some back issues too. Let's just look at Gretzky. 4 Stanley Cups, 2 Conn Smythes, 15 All-Stars, 9 Hart Trophies, league MVP, 10 Art Ross, won the scoring title 10 times, all-time leading scorer. In 1,487 games, Wayne Gretzky scored 2,857 points. He misses by the skin of his teeth, averaging 2 points a game for his career. That is unheard of. I do not anticipate. They say there's records are made to be broken. It's true. It can be broken. It can. Nobody can predict what it's going to be like 100 years from now, and they're still playing hockey and we're all gone. But boy, I'm telling you, that seems pretty impossible. Some of the records Gretzky has, we're definitely not going to see any of that. If I live 20 more years, put me at 72. I don't think there's anybody right now that can. I don't even think McDavid can put that kind of career together to beat, and he's one of the top ones right now. With Lemieux, he played in 915 games. Had 1,723 points. He wasn't as close, but he was close to being also 2 points a game. 2 Stanley Cups, 6 Art Ross, 3 Hart Trophies, 9 All-Stars, number 8 all-time in scoring. So you take had Lemieux been able to stay healthier. And a lot of his points were years when he was with Yager, right? Played on the same team with Yager, definitely did a lot of power play and things together. So, I mean, those are 2 guys, had he stayed healthy, it makes you wonder what the 2 of them would have accomplished together, even more so if he didn't have the illness and stuff like that. So anyway, that is my top 10 list. I think the first part of it, I think most people would agree with. Here is down and around here, I think can be a bit interchangeable. Some people that I left out, and I know for Bergeron, definitely could be changed out for a lot of people. Other names that came into play for me was Adam Oates, Matt Sundin, Denny Savard. How about Doug Gilmour? Doug Gilmour, very similar type player to Bergeron, only with a little bit bigger edge, right? Played in that era when you had to be tough. How about Bobby Clarke? I didn't have Bobby Clarke on here because I didn't see his career long enough. Remember, this guy was a vital part of Team Canada back in 1972, when Canada beat Russia. So, I mean, that guy's career, when I started seeing him, that was when, they lost to Montreal for the Stanley Cup in 76. And he kept playing a little bit more, but I didn't see quite enough of his career to make an evaluation. How about Marian Stastny? Great Czech player. Played for Quebec all those years. Great professional, very skilled player. Phil Esposito, kind of like Clark. I only see the tail end of his career. Some might say Daryl Sittler. Sittler was an interesting guy. I remember when being a kid, and my grandfather Alvin was a huge Toronto Maple Leafs fan. And Saturday night was hockey night in Canada, and I was one of those Canadian kids that I did not miss hockey night in Canada on Saturday night. And usually I was always up to my grandfather's to watch it. And a lot of times we caught, the Toronto game or Montreal. He was a Toronto fan. I was a Montreal fan at that time. And so Sittler was a big deal back in the 70s. And I remember that 10-point or 11-point game that Daryl Sittler had against the Boston Bruins. And that was a remarkable night. It was like, he got the hat trick. He got 3 points, and then he gets the hat trick, and then it's 5 points. And it's like, wow, what a great night. Just, can't go. And then they got 6, and they got 7. It's like, oh my goodness, how high can this guy go? How many points can he get? What a night that was in Toronto for Daryl Sittler. Definitely he'll be remembered forever for that, and also scoring the winning goal in the Canada Cup in 1976 against the Czech goaltender Jirila. But anyway, those are some other names that I fully know could take the place of Patrice Bergeron. But I think, again, taking into consideration the era of hockey, this guy's pretty good. He's pretty good. I'd want him on my team. Does a lot of the little things right. It's not all about scoring and stuff. So anyway, guys, that is my top 10 for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said before, just make a comment below on what you think, whether you agree. Would you change somebody out? Have I missed somebody, which I've learned in doing this? Michael Link, he's right on top of me. He'll let me know if I've forgotten some names and stuff. So gotta give me a bye, Link. The mind's getting slower as I get older here. So, but anyway, thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day. And here is a note to those of you who do like to follow the Sunday Night Sports Guys. Tonight, we are going to be going live on our Facebook page, on our Sunday Night Sports Guys Facebook page. And it won't be live here on YouTube tonight. I will upload the video probably tomorrow once I have more time, or even tonight if I can get the time from the show tonight. But we're going to be on at 5 o'clock Mountain Time, 7 o'clock Eastern, 8 p.m. Atlantic, and 4 p.m. Pacific. So if you haven't been over to our page, our Sunday Night Sports Guys Facebook page, please, by all means, go there. I'll put it over in the comments so people can have it. If you wish to go there, you just need to like the page, and that'll help give you notifications. Oh, I'm not on Facebook. Sorry. Okay, Michael. Well, like I said, we're going to be doing the show there, as we've had some people saying, well, they don't have YouTube and that kind of thing, right? So we're going to just see. We're going to try one on that page tonight, see what the response is. I don't expect that to be a long-term thing, but I will have that show posted here on the YouTube channel for your viewing for tomorrow. So anyway, everybody have yourself a great day. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you again tomorrow for Dukes Daily. Be later in the afternoon because I go back to work tomorrow, back to my shift of 5 to 1:30. So it'll be later in the afternoon here in Alberta before I get my show up. So, okay, have a great day, guys. Talk to you later. Bye for now.